Now this is a story all about how one of the most iconic sitcoms of the 90s flipped TV upside down. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just another laugh-track sitcom, it was a cultural reset. It mixed hip-hop swagger with old-school sitcom charm, brought real conversations about race and family to primetime, and made Will Smith a household name long before he was saving the world on the big screen. It's wild to think that a show about a kid from West Philly moving into his rich relative's mansion would go on to define an entire generation. For millions of viewers, Thursday nights meant hanging out with the Banks family. Uncle Phil's booming lectures, Carlton's offbeat dance moves, Hillary's glam one-liners, and of course, Will breaking the fourth wall every chance he got. But behind all the laughs and luxury, there were some truly weird, funny, and downright unbelievable things that happened, both on and off screen. From last-minute casting changes to secret crossovers, this show had more twists than the Carlton dance itself. So grab your neon windbreaker, crank up some DJ Jazzy Jeff, and get ready, because we're diving into 15 weird facts that'll make you see the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in a whole new light. And hey, if you grew up watching shows like this, make sure to hit like and subscribe to the Throwback Network. We bring back the stories behind your favorite TV memories, the rumors, the rivalries, and the wild moments that shaped the shows we still can't stop quoting. Now, let's head back to Bel-Air. 15. The theme song was written in a single night. Everyone knows the words. You could probably rap the whole thing right now without missing a beat, but few fans realize that the show's legendary theme song was written and recorded in just one night. When NBC needed an intro, they asked for something short and simple, just a few lines to explain the premise. But Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff had bigger ideas. They stayed up all night, laying down verses and tweaking beats in Jeff's home studio. Will later said it took them about 3 hours from start to finish. The song was recorded so fast that NBC didn't even have time to overthink it. They just used it as is. The network wanted to cut it shorter for airtime, but test audiences loved it so much they kept the whole thing. Years later, fans around the world can still recite every line, even people who weren't alive when the show aired. It's easily one of the most recognizable TV themes ever. Fun fact, in the UK, the full extended version actually aired during the show's early runs, giving British fans an extra verse most Americans never heard. 14. Quincy Jones created the show in 10 minutes. The creation of The Fresh Prince might be one of the wildest origin stories in Hollywood. It all started at a glamorous party at Quincy Jones's mansion, complete with celebrities, champagne, and apparently TV executives. Will Smith had been invited through a mutual friend, but he wasn't there to network. He was there to escape his money problems. Then, out of nowhere, Quincy heard someone mention the idea of a sitcom about a kid from Philly living with rich relatives in LA. Quincy loved it. He called Will over, cleared out the furniture, and said, "You got 10 minutes to impress NBC." Will thought he was joking. He wasn't. Quincy literally had NBC executives waiting in another room. So Will freestyled a short scene, mixing humor with attitude, and nailed it. The executives were floored. Quincy told them, "You either sign him right now, or you'll lose him forever." They signed. Just like that, no formal audition, no screen test. A deal was born in 10 minutes that would change television forever. 13. Will Smith only took the role to pay off tax debt. In 1989, Will Smith was broke. After a string of hit records with DJ Jazzy Jeff, he'd spent too freely: cars, clothes, houses, and when tax time came, he owed the IRS more than $2.8 million. They took almost everything. Then came Quincy Jones. When the Fresh Prince offer landed, Will didn't see it as a dream job. He saw it as survival. He admitted later that he didn't even want to act at first, but he was desperate enough to say yes. For the first 3 years, most of his paycheck went directly to the IRS. But that forced career pivot turned out to be fate. Acting clicked for him immediately. He studied older sitcoms, watched how the cameras moved, and copied techniques from co-stars like James Avery. Will once said, "The IRS kind of made me an actor." By season 4, he'd paid off his debt. And by the time the show ended, he was one of the highest paid stars in Hollywood. The lesson? Sometimes the best things start when you're cornered. 12. The Banks mansion wasn't in Bel-Air. When you picture the Fresh Prince, you picture that mansion, the marble foyer, the curved staircase, the columns, but the house that became TV famous isn't even in Bel-Air. The exterior was shot in Brentwood, on N Bristol Avenue. The interior, of course, was built from scratch on a soundstage at NBC Studios in Burbank. But that didn't stop fans from turning the Brentwood house into a pop culture landmark. In 2020, to celebrate the show's 30th anniversary, Will Smith partnered with Airbnb to rent it out for a weekend experience. Inside, rooms were redesigned to match the show. Graffiti walls, 90s sneakers, even framed family portraits of the Bankses. The owners said it was surreal seeing fans travel from around the world just to take pictures outside. Even now, neighbors say there's a steady stream of visitors humming in West Philadelphia, born and raised, as they pose for photos. 11. Aunt Viv's infamous recast. The Great Aunt Viv switch, one of the biggest TV controversies of the 1990s. Midway through season 3, viewers turned on the TV and suddenly saw a completely different Aunt Viv. Janet Hubert, who originated the role, had been replaced by Daphne Maxwell Reid. The show never explained it. No wink, no joke, just boom. New Aunt Viv. Behind the scenes, things were tense. Janet reportedly clashed with producers and Will Smith. Will later admitted that his youthful arrogance didn't help, saying he was 20-something and full of himself. Janet, meanwhile, felt disrespected and sidelined. The tension built until she was quietly written out. Fans were shocked. Some preferred the new Aunt Viv's lighter tone. Others missed Janet's fiery presence. For decades, it was a mystery clouding the show's legacy. Then, in 2020, during the Fresh Prince reunion special, Will and Janet finally sat down face to face. Their emotional reconciliation broke the internet. Two people revisiting decades of misunderstanding. It gave fans something rare in Hollywood: closure. 10. The show was almost canceled after season 1. It's hard to imagine a world without the Fresh Prince. But after season 1, NBC almost pulled the plug. The show debuted in 1990 to decent ratings, but critics were lukewarm. Some said it was too goofy, others thought it lacked depth. NBC was ready to move on until reruns hit syndication and the numbers exploded. Teenagers started watching after school, quoting lines and even memorizing Will's outfits. Suddenly, the network realized they had lightning in a bottle. Not only did they renew it, they doubled down, giving the writers more creative freedom. That's when the show found its rhythm, mixing hilarious moments with deeper themes. If it weren't for reruns, we might never have seen Carlton's dance, Jazz's flying exits, or Will's emotional scene with his dad that still makes grown men cry. 9. The Carlton dance was inspired by Courtney Cox and Eddie Murphy. The Carlton dance wasn't choreographed, it was chaos. Alfonso Ribeiro said he created it after watching Courtney Cox's awkward dancing in Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark video and Eddie Murphy's white guy dance bit from his stand-up routine. He mixed them together as a joke. When he performed it during rehearsal, the crew couldn't stop laughing. From then on, it became a running gag, and eventually a pop culture phenomenon. The dance got so famous that Ribeiro later had to fight to keep ownership of it. When Fortnite added a suspiciously similar dance move, he even filed a lawsuit, which was later dismissed. Still, it proved how far the Carlton legacy had spread. Ribeiro once joked that if he'd known it would follow him for life, he would have made it easier on his knees. 8. Will's real-life best friend appeared on the show. One of the show's best dynamics was between Will and Jazz, the wisecracking DJ who kept getting tossed out of the mansion. And that chemistry wasn't acting. DJ Jazzy Jeff and Will Smith were already best friends in real life. Their friendship made their on-screen banter feel effortless. The producers loved it, and they wrote more scenes for Jazz, mostly ones that ended with him being thrown out the front door. But here's the part most fans don't know. They only filmed that throw-out scene once. Every time Jazz got tossed later, they reused that same clip, which is why he's always wearing the same shirt. Jeff later laughed about it, saying, "It became the world's most famous wardrobe malfunction." Off camera, the two stayed inseparable. When Will landed his first big movie role in 6 Degrees of Separation, Jeff was the one who encouraged him to take it, even though it meant stepping away from music. That friendship literally helped shape Will's career. 7. James Avery was a real-life Shakespearean actor. James Avery, the heart and authority of the Banks household, was no ordinary sitcom dad. Before The Fresh Prince, he was a classically trained Shakespearean actor who'd performed in theaters across the country. He brought that same gravitas to Uncle Phil, grounding even the goofiest episodes with dignity. Will Smith has said that the famous "Why He Don't Want Me Man" scene, where Will breaks down after his father leaves, was fueled by Avery's mentoring. When Will hugged him during the take, Avery whispered, "Now that's acting." Avery also had a wild voice acting career. He was the voice of Shredder in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, and he even voiced characters in Iron Man and Ghostbusters. When he passed away in 2013, the cast described him as the show's true father figure, both on and off screen. There may have been a lot of laughs, but Avery made sure the show always had a soul. 6. The gun episode almost got pulled off the air. Season 5's Bullets Over Bel-Air was a shocker. Carlton buys a gun after Will is injured in a robbery. And for a sitcom known for its laughs, it was a heavy turn. NBC execs nearly axed it, fearing it was too dark for primetime. But Will Smith refused to back down. He argued that real families were dealing with these issues, and that sitcoms could handle serious moments. Eventually, the network gave in. The episode became a cultural flashpoint. Teachers showed it in schools, newspapers debated it, and fans praised the show's courage. It even earned the series an award nomination for addressing social issues. Behind the scenes, cast members said filming that episode was emotionally draining. Alfonso Ribeiro later revealed that it changed the cast's perspective on what sitcoms could do, proving comedy didn't have to shy away from truth. 5. The show predicted Will's real movie career. Before Will Smith was saving the world in Independence Day, the writers of Fresh Prince were already joking about it. In multiple episodes, Will makes cracks about becoming a movie star or doing action scenes someday. Writers say they included those lines because Will constantly talked about his dream of being in blockbuster films. He studied the careers of Eddie Murphy and Tom Cruise, saying he wanted to blend comedy and action the way they did. Fast forward a few years, and those jokes became prophecy. By 1996, Will was headlining Independence Day, one of the highest-grossing films of the decade. Fresh Prince didn't just predict his future, it helped prepare him for it. The timing, the confidence, the charisma, all honed on that set in Bel-Air. 4. Hillary's fiancé's death scene was totally improvised. The death of Trevor, Hillary's overconfident TV reporter boyfriend, is one of those scenes that perfectly captures the absurdity of Fresh Prince. His skydiving proposal ends with a sudden, "Hillary, will you marry?" before cutting to static. The concept was dreamed up in the writer's room during a brainstorming session. Someone joked, "What if Trevor's proposal literally goes sky high?" The room erupted in laughter, and they wrote it into the show almost immediately. Even the cutaway timing was improvised during editing. They shortened the final frame so the joke landed with maximum shock. Karen Parsons, who played Hillary, said she first saw the edited version on air and screamed, then laughed uncontrollably. The gag became one of sitcom history's all-time funniest dark moments, blending slapstick and satire perfectly. 3. The show's final scene was filmed in silence. The series finale, I Done, remains one of the most emotional sitcom endings ever. Will standing in that empty mansion, every echo of laughter gone, it felt like saying goodbye to family. During filming, the atmosphere on set was heavy. There was no audience that day, no laughter track. The crew stayed silent between takes. Many of them were crying. They'd spent 6 years together. Will later said it was the hardest scene he ever filmed, because it mirrored his real life. He was moving on. The show that launched him was ending, and he didn't know what came next. When he turned off the lights and walked out, that was the real Will Smith taking one last look around the set that changed his life. They got it in one take. Raw, quiet, and unforgettable. 2. Will Smith memorized everyone's lines. Early in his acting career, Will had no idea what he was doing. He was terrified of forgetting lines, so he decided to memorize everyone's. During the first season, if you look closely, you can sometimes see him mouthing other characters' dialogue. It's especially noticeable in early episodes with Uncle Phil or Jazz. The crew eventually had to tell him to stop because it was distracting on camera. But Will's work ethic impressed everyone. He wanted to learn everything: camera blocking, timing, lighting. That obsession paid off. By the end of the series, he was improvising jokes and punching up lines like a pro. The kid who didn't know how to act became one of Hollywood's most versatile stars. 1. The Bel-Air universe secretly crossed with the Jeffersons in different strokes. In one of the show's funniest cameos, George and Louise Jefferson show up as family friends, making Fresh Prince part of a shared sitcom universe that includes the Jeffersons in different strokes. That crossover might seem like a simple gag, but it's actually a nod to TV history. Both of those older shows dealt with similar themes: race, class, and ambition, and Fresh Prince carried that torch into the 90s. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it TV connections that makes longtime fans grin. And it's proof that The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just a comedy, it was part of a lineage of groundbreaking shows that changed television forever. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't just a sitcom, it was lightning in a bottle. A show born out of a 10-minute pitch at a Hollywood party somehow became a timeless piece of television history. It gave us unforgettable characters, real emotional moments, and some of the most quotable lines in TV history. It managed to be cool without trying, funny without being mean, and emotional without feeling heavy-handed. That balance between laughter and life lessons is what made it special. It showed that sitcoms could have soul, that hip-hop belonged in mainstream culture, and that a show about class, identity, and family could still make us laugh until we cried. And maybe that's why, decades later, The Fresh Prince still feels fresh. Because underneath all the jokes and dances was a story about belonging, about a kid trying to fit into a world that didn't always make sense, and about a family that took him in anyway. So here's to Will, Carlton, Uncle Phil, and the entire Banks family for giving us 6 seasons of heart, humor, and history. And if you still can't resist rapping those first few lines every time you hear that beat, don't worry, you're not alone. Now hit that like button, drop your favorite Fresh Prince memory in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for more throwbacks just like this, because we've got plenty more stories waiting to take you right back to the best decade on TV. One weird fact at a time.